So innovation comes from breaking things. When I was a kid, I used to play video games a lot, and I had Super Nintendo, known in Japan as the Super Famicom. So when the game didn't work, there was only one thing you could do. You take the cartridge out, you blew it in, and you put it back. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. But nobody questioned it. Why? Because back then, technology just didn't work. You needed to figure it out. So we had computers, but they crashed. We had video games, but they froze. We had internet, but it was so slow and unreliable. So back then, there was no other ways to try, error, and go again. We basically were the bridge between the analog and the digital. I'm Carlos. I'm from Costa Rica, a beautiful country in Central America full of green hills and beautiful sunsets. I grew up in the late 80s, early 90s. We were definitely not analog, but not digital natives. So back then, technology was slow, as I said. I remember playing the video games and going to my computer, and everything was in English. Some of the video games in Japanese, and I speak Spanish, and I'm just a little boy. So you have no other way than try, fail, adjust, and try again. How many times did I play Super Mario Bros? Once, again, and again, and again. But that gives me a lesson that builds my career and my mindset. So I grew up, started developing my career, always with that mindset of, it's okay to fail, it's okay to try again, right? Then, when I was still figuring out who I was, I lost my mom. And that hit me very hard, because you understand very young that life is not predictable. There is no manual, there is no reset button. So what you do? You try again, you adjust, and you rebuild. When things break, you understand them. Nowadays, we have all this movement of AI. Everything is seamless, everything is perfect, everything is right away. But when things are right away, you consume. Only when things break, you think. So what happens when the system never breaks? I developed my career, I became a software engineer, product designer, and I got a master's degree in marketing. Then I decided to travel across the world. I started in China, where I spent 7 years learning about speed, development, and technology. Then I came to Japan. I was fascinated about Japan. It's a country built on mastery, discipline, and tradition. But when the time passed, I started to notice something and feel uncomfortable. In Japan, there are so many systems that are followed perfectly, even when they don't make any sense. Let me give you 3 examples, not to criticize, just to reflect. The first one, overtime work. People stay in the office just to be seen, not to be working. Companies treat it as commitment. But what happens? Is this really helping anyone? Is this really efficient for the company? Is it really helping the employees? Second one, pay leave. Japan have pay leave as any other countries, but people don't take it. Not because they don't need it, but because they don't want to inconvenience others. So what happens is exhaustion becomes normal, and burnout becomes invisible. Of course, the system works, but people stop working. Third one, honesty gets quiet. When you go to a company, normally during meetings, it's not recommended to challenge or to argue an idea. If you want to propose something new, you gotta talk it beforehand with your senpai and with the director. Why? Because they don't want to feel that they are not prepared, they don't want to feel there is a challenge. So what happens is, everybody attend the meeting, nobody speaks. Yeah, there is harmony, but you kill creativity. So innovation comes from questioning the system. there's a phenomenon called the cobra effect, and it's actually based on a real story. When the British rule in India was happening, there was a problem with too many cobras in Delhi. So naturally, the government put a bounty on cobras. People went in, hunt down the cobras, delivered them, check in. But then the people in Delhi start to realize it's a little bit hard to go out in the wilderness and chase cobras. So they start breeding them. They took them home, breed them, kill them, cash in. When the government find out about this, of course they stop the program. So you get all these people breeding cobras, and now there's no value. So what happened? They release them to the wild. So at the end, we get more cobras than at the beginning. So the cobra effect is about how we put so many attention in measurements rather than in the result. For example, hospitals measuring success with waiting time. So they change the definition of waiting. Schools measuring on how much can they assess instead of how much they can think. So, as I said, we live in a world where everything needs to be seamless, everything needs to be right now. But I want you to get these 5 points and put it in practice. First one, seek discomfort. It's one of the best things you can do to train your brain just to put yourself in an uncomfortable position. Okay? Do something different. Try a different route. Try to learn a different language. Break things. I don't mean sabotage. I mean investigate. If you're an engineer, push the limits of your software. If you're a designer, remove constraints. If you work at school, then just try something different. Understand systems. You cannot change something if you don't understand how it works. Redefine failure. One of the most important things, especially in Japan, when we think failure is data, is something that we should avoid. Failure is the best lesson that you can have. The secret is to fail faster and fail smarter. And of course, question rules. I'm not saying you need to break it, but if you're at school, then just question, why do we do this? So I want to wrap up by saying, all of you most likely has tried a Shinkansen. When a Shinkansen arrives, there is a crew of cleaning people. They bow and they have 7 minutes to clean the whole train. All of you should say, wow, the system works perfectly. They should have trained a lot. But actually at the beginning was very messy. They were one of the first ones to start questioning the system and say, why do we clean in this way? Why is it important for the people to have a clean train? And how can we make it faster? So even if the system looks perfect, there's always a process behind. Because now with AI, we are a little bit lazy. We expect everything fast. We stop asking why. And actually, the future is going to be built by those kids that were breaking things, that they were blowing out video games, and they were trying. Why? Because they never stopped asking why. Thank you very much.